Closed captioning for the Casey Malone Show is sponsored by Hunter Stevens Land Title Agency. Integrity, service, and commitment you can trust.
Oh yeah, Casey Malone is serving up local. It's time for the stories of our region, the tastes, the sights, the sounds, and the people in and around the valley. Get ready for some local flavor on the Casey Malone Show.
Today, it's the always changing exhibits at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum. And I attend the Interfaith Seder. But first, one of my favorites, Baker's Dozen Garlic and Citrus Pork. I am a huge fan of pork. It's lean, it's reasonably priced, and it's a great vehicle for flavors. And my pork butt, my pork roast, pork shoulder, is a great dish. You do have to allow overnight for marinating, but I call this my Baker's Dozen Garlic Citrus Pork because I have 13 cloves of garlic. I have got 2 different juices, orange and lime juice, and then some thyme and other flavorings. Remember, marinate overnight, low and slow in the oven, and you are going to make this time and time again. So let's get started. For this recipe, you'll need a 5-pound bone-in pork shoulder with fat cap, 1 cup of chopped cilantro, 1/2 cup orange juice, 1/2 cup fresh lime juice, 13 cloves of garlic minced, 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, 3 tablespoons fresh thyme chopped, 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and fresh ground pepper. Well, the unsung hero in this dish is the garlic. Thus the title, Baker's Dozen Garlic and Citrus. So here is 13 cloves of minced garlic. We'll get that marinade started there. Then we'll add the fresh lime juice, the fresh orange juice. The cilantro is such a great flavoring. That's a cup of chopped cilantro leaves. Then we have 3 tablespoons of thyme, 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, and we'll also add the salt and the fresh ground pepper. I'm telling you, you are going to thank me for this one. We will mix it up thoroughly and get it all mixed together. Now the gallon size bags, I use a freezer bag for marinating. They'll usually hold a 5 to 6 pound pork shoulder roast. But if you go a little bigger, adjust the ingredients, adjust your cooking times, and you may have to get a larger bag for marinating. So we'll just dump that all in there. We'll seal it up, get most of the air out. There we go. And we'll just mash it really, really well to make sure it gets on every piece of this pork shoulder. We are just going to pop this in the fridge overnight, and then we'll deal with this in about 8 hours. So now it is time to cook this bad boy. Ugh. If you could smell the cilantro and the garlic and the thyme, we'll take it out of the marinade. It seems a shame, but we do have to discard all that extra marinade. And then we'll put it on the rack in the roaster pan. And we're really not done yet. What we're going to do is further salt and pepper the entire roast on both sides, okay? Because we just want to make sure it has lots of seasoning. It's going to be cooking low and slow. And then some more fresh ground pepper. Beautiful, look at this. This is a masterpiece. Now what we're going to do is cook this with the fat cap side up, all right? And if you want, you could scrape some of this stuff off, but I just like to leave it. It'll crisp up in the oven, but it just adds a little more punch. So we'll put more black pepper on this side, get it on the sides too, and then a little more salt. Let this sit at room temperature for about an hour. And while you're doing that, preheat the oven to 400. You're going to bake it at 400 for 1 hour, and then you're going to reduce the heat to 300 in the oven, and you're going to cook it for 4 hours more. All right, the oven is preheated to 400. We'll put that in for 1 hour, reduce it after an hour to 300, and in about 5 hours, we're going to enjoy the best pork shoulder you've ever had. So it's been 5 hours in the oven, and then I pulled the pork shoulder from the oven and let it rest for 30 minutes. And now it's time for the unveiling. We're gonna start with the removal of the fat cap. Now look at this. This, I think, is such a treat. Now, if you're not a fan of the fat, it did help make this perfect and moist and tender, but look at that, you just take it right off. You know, remember, it's a pork shoulder. So you can shred it, you can slice it, and then you can break that up. Look at, perfectly done. I am dying to try this. Now there's lots of ways to serve this. If you slice it or if you shred it, put it in tortilla shells, and you can almost make like a pork taco. Or you can just serve the regular meat and then with a rice or a roasted vegetable. I like to spray mine with a little bit of fresh lime juice. And you know what also works well, is my salsa verde, because it's really citrusy and it has a really nice flavor. And as you can see, I took a little bit of the fat and I treated myself to a couple chunks right there on top. So let's see how I did. It is so moist. Oh my gosh, so tender. So flavorful. Go to my website, caseyMaloneShow.com, for the entire recipe. You are going to make this time and time again. And I want to thank Phil Rita, my beverage consultant. He recommended a nice, bold Zinfandel. Really rich and fruity. This is DeRose Vineyard out of Cienega Valley in California, and it really suits this pork dish well. Try this. You're going to love it. Cheers. The Casey Malone Show will be right back with more local flavor. I've got your next t-shirt idea for the magic trick. Eat, drink, celebrate, repeat.
Casey,
like
that is our slogan.
Okay, well, I got this for
you know
t-shirt.
what? I think we need to put that on a t-shirt. But yes, you know, when it comes to our food, we truly have the passion for bringing great quality food. We make from scratch. We support local farmers with our farm-to-table menu, and that's what we do. And then when it comes to our beverages, our drinks, I mean, we have 41 craft beers on tap. We really have the passion for the craft beer, and we are the only place this side of the state that does wine on tap. You cannot get a better quality. And then celebrate here at Magic Tree. You know, it's all about creating a memory for people.
And you see all the different celebrations, all the things that people just love to party here. And I'll tell you, eat, drink, celebrate, repeat.
Cheers.
Part of growing up in Youngstown is growing up with Rowley Brothers Markets. Even friends who have moved out of town come to shop and say hi when they're home for a visit.
And my family has always shopped at Rowley's, and today they are still my favorite grocery store. My recipes depend on the best ingredients, and that's why I get them at Rowley's, where you'll always find the freshest food at the best prices.
Rowley Brothers is a proud sponsor of the KC Malone Show. The quality that customers have come to expect is true local flavor.
$5 Burger Mondays at Sadie's Place, inside the Best Western, Route 46, Austintown.
My dad, Stephen J. Kamara, opened a jewelry store in 1948. He sold high-quality jewelry at a fair price. We are keeping the family tradition alive. I'm Bob Kamara. Along with my children, Rob and Brianna, Kamara's has the largest selection of diamonds and engagement rings in our area. You can trust Kamara Jewelers to offer the best value and personal service. Kamara Jewelers, locally owned by the third-generation Kamara family and working on the fourth. Get real, get Kamara.
An interfaith Seder was held at Stambaugh Auditorium. Christians and Jews gathered to learn the importance of the Passover holiday and the rituals and symbolism behind the order and steps of the Seder meal. I am here with our United Nations ambassador, also known as Jack Kravitz from Kravitz Deli, and tonight at Stambaugh Auditorium is an interfaith Seder. And not being of the Jewish faith, Jack, I went online and I got the Seder service in a nutshell. But I think you could be more descriptive.
Well, we'll try working you through it. We'll be gentle. The biblical commandment in Exodus, when Moses was freed the Jews from slavery in Egypt, was that you shall teach it to your children. And the objective of the Seder is to teach your children, and in our case, our friends as well, how the Passover works and celebrate the freedom from Egypt.
Well, I know that there's many courses, and each food represents something else upon the flight, correct?
Well, the Seder itself means order. There's a particular order that you go through.
Now, Jack, explain to me the significance of the matzah.
Well, the matzah is the star of the show here. When the Egyptians let the Jews go, they did it so quickly that there was not time to let their bread rise. So they let the bread bake on their backs. In commemoration of that, we don't eat anything with grain unless it's first made into matzah, which is unleavened bread.
So for the food and the meal this evening, what will we be eating?
Well, the important thing to look at is all the food is made, because it's a meat meal, we're serving chicken tonight, it's all made without dairy. So this is the first item we're serving. It's a traditional item called simmus, which simmus is sweet potatoes, carrots, dried fruit, and it's sweetened almost like a candied sweet potato. We're also going to be serving roasted potatoes, stuffed chicken breast, and again, the stuffing is made with matzah. We'll be serving matzah ball soup. And then we're making desserts, and all our desserts are made without flour because it's all made out of matzah meal and there's no leavening.
I see that you have a baked kugel. Now that is not bound with flour either.
No, kugel, actually the term kugel means casserole. And this is a casserole made with matzah and vegetables.
Well, Rabbi Sean Berger is here with his family, his daughter Eliana and his granddaughter Marley, and this is a big time for family Passover.
It's the time for family.
And I understand that you and your wife had written the Haggadah that we will be using this evening.
That's correct.
Explain this to me, why I find the book opens backwards, but you say it's not backwards, and what is behind this?
Well, Hebrew is read from right to left, and it corresponds with nature. Because when the new moon starts, it starts on the right. And then when it goes out, the sliver is on the left. So nature itself goes from right to left as time goes by. My wife always made a family Haggadah. The Haggadah is what we call the book with everything in it. And she personalized it, as you said, and wrote songs and explanations, etc. And then I put something together also that would be good for the community. And that's how we have this Haggadah for Stambaugh.
To have an interfaith celebration, we need Christians and Jews. Representing the Christians, we have Father Belasco and we have Pastor Mager. And Father, I see you have your yarmulke on, and you've attended many Seders.
Yes, we've been doing Jewish Christian studies now for about 40 years. It started with Rabbi Meyer at Temple Element, and many of the ideas that we may share today, and the idea that Jesus, before he died, celebrated a Seder. They were remembering the events of coming out of Egypt, and then he added to, when he breaks the bread and drinks the third cup, that this is in memory of him. So
Now, Pastor, this is my first Seder.
This is my first Seder. Here, I wasn't able to be here last year because I was out of town, but I've participated in other Seders in previous communities where I've lived and served. I've had rabbi friends who have come and done this at our churches where I've been. Yeah, so this is not my first one, but my first one here in Youngstown.
And what do you really enjoy about the whole ritual?
Yeah. Well, as George hinted a little bit earlier, I've done studies for my Doctor of Ministry degree. I focused on Jewish-Christian relations, and so I've always had an interest in how we understand our Christian faith better by understanding more about the Jewish faith and Jewish traditions.
I won't ask how many Passovers you've attended, but is that also one of your favorite religious holidays?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed it because we always had all of our family come in and stay with us. And it's been a really big family event, and my mom would cook for everyone, so I always enjoyed it. And it's Marley's first Passover.
So Marley, you seem very excited. Why don't you tell me how excited you are for your first Passover? Yes.
She's excited with a microphone. She wants to eat it.
I know,
She thinks it's part of the Seder.
I know. The Seder meal is steeped in history and tradition. It stresses the importance of honoring the past and suffering while celebrating the present with friends and family. The Casey Malone Show will be right back with more local flavor.
Step up to Exmark, the mowers that have been beautifying landscapes for more than 3 decades, featuring high-performance zero-turn riders like the new Exmark Radius, starting at just $49.99. With any Exmark, you'll get a great-looking cut in less time, every time. That's why landscape pros purchase Exmark 2-to-1 over the next best-selling brand. So what are you waiting for? Exmark, ready to work for you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Bernard. You know, every personal injury case has its own unique circumstances. The best advice I can give to anybody who suffered an injury is please call a lawyer. Don't try to settle the case on your own. When you contact our office, you will talk to a lawyer. And we're not going to charge you for just walking in our door or giving us a call. In fact, we won't get a fee unless your case is successful. Personal attention is what our clients deserve. It's our #1 priority.
Hi everybody, I'm Danny, owner and operator of Cthulhu Prime Meats, a 3rd-generation butcher shop that not only specializes in quality, but also in customer service and doing things in a new technological way. Chris here is our customer service manager. Chris, what do you think that we do differently than any other grocery store?
I think we personally not only offer great product, but we can offer a great customer service experience as well. We try and treat all our customers like they were family and friends, ask how their family's doing just so they can keep in touch, and give them that customer experience that they deserve.
And the nice part is we not only do that inside the store, but also on CthulhuPrimeMeats.com, where you can buy a lot of our products that we carry here, whether it be grass-fed beef, organic chicken, some of our specialty burgers and bacon. Those are wonderful, and we're going to provide that same customer experience online as we do in store.
Come see us in store or online. Make your next meal one to remember.
Four for $5 till 6. Happy hour at Sadie's Place inside the Best Western, Route 46, Austintown.
My mom was always in my corner.
Always pushing me to do better.
I couldn't have asked for a better mother.
So when she needed assisted living,
I did my research.
Doctors, nurses,
and others with family and assisted living,
they all said,
trust the name you know.
Briarfield.
For assisted living with top healthcare experts, a caring staff, and a comfortable home-like setting,
trust the name you know.
Briarfield.
Trust the name you know, Briarfield. Proudly serving the Valley for over 20 years.
My dad, Stephen J. Kamara, opened a jewelry store in 1948. He sold high-quality jewelry at a fair price. We are keeping the family tradition alive. I'm Bob Kamara, along with my children, Rob and Brianna. Kamara's has the largest selection of diamonds and engagement rings in our area. You can trust Kamara Jewelers to offer the best value and personal service. Kamara Jewelers, locally owned by the 3rd-generation Kamara family and working on the 4th. Get real, get Kamara.
It has been 20 years since the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame opened on Cleveland's North Coast Harbor. The exhibits and archives feature every aspect of rock and roll, roots and early influences through today's contemporary artists. No matter your taste, there's video footage, memorabilia, interactive exhibits, the library, and archives. This museum is fascinating for all ages. Todd Messick is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications for the Rock Hall. 20 years, big celebration coming up. And you marked it in mid-March. You had your, 10 millionth visitor?
We did, and it just happened serendipitously. We had our 10 millionth visitor just come through a few weeks ago, and you couldn't script it any better. This guy just got off the bus, a red-eye bus from New York City. He's a musician. He came to Cleveland to look at schools for grad school. As unsuspecting as any of us, he sees cameras lined up, hoping that he's going to get to see a celebrity coming through. And really, he's emblematic of the 10 million people that came through our doors in the last 20 years to really come to this this experience that is unique to any other thing in the world. This is the only place in the world that really celebrates the art form the way we do, and it tells the story of how this music has really impacted our lives. And so we really wanted to make a big deal about that. It just so happens that happens at our 20th anniversary as the inductions are happening. It's just really been a great time for us.
You see every age group represented. You see little kids, you see preteens, teenagers, seniors. How do you appeal to all those demographics?
Yeah, it's interesting because you look at, okay, rock and roll, that's, clearly the baby boomers were a big part of that. And how does the next generation and the generation and the generation after that really embrace that? A really interesting thing about technology and media is it used to be that, that you listen to one thing. You listen to those 4 or 5 radio stations that you listen to, and now music is being introduced to kids through Spotify and YouTube and social media and video games and iTunes and all these different places, and they're so much more accessible to them that we have kids come through that are 14 years old and they have a Beatles shirt or a Who shirt or a Jimi Hendrix because they're learning it. So this music, we have artists that haven't performed in a number of years that are still being embraced by the younger generation. But we also try to make connections. So when you come through our exhibits, you'll see artists like the Black Keys and Bruno Mars and Beyonce, because there's a couple points there. One is that we define it really broadly. We look at everything that came into rock and roll, which is R&B and jazz and blues and folk and country and all those things that kind of melded together to make rock and roll, but also what emanates from it, whether it's hip hop or EDM or some other, indie music that is happening today. So then the second thing I want to say is that we want to try to make connections. So if you really like Jimi Hendrix, then there's a way that he connects to John Mayer, and to see how different artists have influenced each other, how there's connections there, how people carry on the tradition. So there's something for each generation, and there's also a way for those generations to connect.
Do you think, of course, that Northeast Ohio, Western Pennsylvania are the most close region to the Rock Hall, almost takes it for granted? Because the majority of your visitors are out of state, international?
Yeah, about 90% of the people come from out of town. We call it the Statue of Liberty syndrome. People don't go to Statue of Liberty until they're about to leave New York.
Meredith Rutledge Borger is a curator here at the Rock Hall, and we are in front of a collection that you acquired from Beyonce.
Yes, we're so excited.
Does that process work?
Well, we approached Beyonce's people to see if we could get her Super Bowl outfit after her Super Bowl performance, and they said absolutely yes, and we'd like to give you a few more things as well. And we said absolutely yes, thank you.
Now, the Rock Hall, in your permanent collection, do you have a lot of different items and artifacts?
We do, but because we're a relatively young institution, the museum only opened in 1995. This will be our 20th anniversary, and we're real excited about that. But because we're relatively young, we have a sort of challenge in terms of building our collection. About 60% of our collection is on loan, And we are working really hard to get that ratio up so that we actually own items and don't have to worry about returning them.
But what we do see is, and we encourage this, we see the local people come when they bring their friends in from out of town, when people, businesses and conventions, and that's a growing market for Cleveland, those people come from out of town, and the local people it's really important for them to serve as our ambassadors. So we want to encourage them to come down. There's a discount for local people, and it's a pretty wide footprint in terms of the geography we offer. We want those people to be members and come through, not just because we want them to attend the museum, but because we want them to feel good about it, be proud of their community, and be ambassadors to bring all those other people in from out of town.
That's true, and that is, what are we going to do in Cleveland? Well, what about the Rock Hall? Right. It's a big deal. We fought so hard to get it here.
I kid you not. I've traveled around the world, and in a recent trip, I was in Dubai, and I'm at the restaurant, and the waiter's just making small talk. Where are you from? Cleveland, in Dubai. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Worldwide, we're known for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and really being the birthplace of rock and roll.
The Casey Malone Show is sponsored in part by Denise and John York and the DeBartolo Corporation.